An innocent black man returns home from a high-risk mission overseas, only to be arrested at the airport by a racist immigration officer who sees only his skin color, not his credentials. But this isn't just any man. He's a top FBI agent. And what happens next will expose a broken system, based on true patterns. Driven by truth, the air inside JFK Airport buzzed with the usual control chaos. Announcements echoed overhead. Footsteps hurried in every direction, and the scent of coffee, jet fuel, and tired bodies lingered like a constant fog. Among the crowd stood Special Agent Langston Pierce, a tall, broad-shouldered black man in a tailored Navy suit, quietly collecting his leather briefcase and duffel bag from the luggage carousel. Langston had just returned from a classified mission in Tel Aviv, an anti-terrorism joint op with Mossad. He was exhausted, but as always, alert. His posture was military straight. His dark eyes scanned the terminal instinctively, as he'd been trained to do since joining the Bureau 18 years ago. He had the presence of a man who'd seen things, done things, and he wore that quiet authority the way others wore cologne. But to Officer Kenneth Doyle, standing at the far end of the immigration checkpoint, all he saw was a black man in a suit with too much confidence. And that was enough. Langston moved through customs, passport in hand, eyes forward. The line crawled slowly. Ahead of him, a young woman in a hijab was pulled aside. Behind him, a Latino father was asked to open his son's backpack. Langston sighed. He'd seen it all before, just never on this side of the glass. When he stepped to the booth, he handed over his diplomatic credentials and his passport, embossed with a government insignia. Officer Doyle barely glanced at them. "Purpose of your visit?" Doyle asked, his tone tight, his eyes locked on Langston, like a predator sizing prey. Langston blinked. "Returning home. I'm a U.S. citizen." Doyle didn't nod, didn't smile. "You're coming from where again?" "Israel." "Doing what?" Langston tilted his head. "I'm sorry, is there a problem?" Doyle leaned back, eyes narrowing. "I asked the questions." Langston kept calm. "Understood. I'm a special agent with the FBI, Counterterrorism Division. This is a secure return. You can call D.C. to confirm." "You got a badge?" Doyle cut in. "Yes." "Show me." Langston reached slowly into his blazer and retrieved a leather case. Doyle snatched it, examined it as though it were fake, then said, "This don't mean nothing to me. Wait here." Langston's fingers clenched, then released. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Langston's phone buzzed. It was Deputy Director Rivera, his superior. "I'm still at customs," Langston whispered. "They've pulled me aside. Officer Doyle." "Doyle." Rivera exhaled sharply. "We've had complaints about him." "Stay calm. Agent, I'll make the call." Before he could hang up, 2 uniformed airport officers approached Langston. "Sir, come with us." Langston stood still. "On what grounds?" "We're conducting an inspection. I've done nothing wrong." One officer reached for Langston's arm. "Big mistake." "Don't touch me," Langston warned, voice low but commanding. "You're violating federal protocol." "I'm not resisting, but you need to understand who I am." That only seemed to trigger them. The handcuffs came out. Langston was arrested in front of hundreds of travelers. Phones came out. Whispers turned to gasps. A little girl asked her mother why the man in the nice suit was being taken away. But Officer Doyle was satisfied, because in his mind, this was order, control. A black man acting too confident? That's a threat. Inside the stark back room, Langston sat in silence. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. No phone, no badge, no dignity. Officer Doyle entered with a smirk. "You think you can walk in here and flash a fake badge like that? You're going to jail for impersonating a federal agent." Langston didn't flinch. "I'd advise you to stop talking now." Doyle laughed. "You threatening me?" "No," Langston said. "But I know your supervisor's about to get a call from someone whose name is probably tattooed on your nightmares." The room fell silent. 10 minutes later, the door burst open. Director Rivera stepped in, flanked by airport security higher-ups and a lawyer from the Department of Justice. "Langston, are you okay?" Rivera asked, rushing to his side. Langston nodded once, jaw tight. Rivera turned on Doyle. You just racially profiled, harassed, and unlawfully detained a decorated FBI agent who's led international counterterrorism operations and holds top-secret clearance. I hope you like unemployment. Doyle tried to explain, but his words were paper-thin. You thought he looked suspicious? Rivera barked. That's the whole reason, isn't it? Doyle said nothing. Too late. The story exploded. CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News. Black FBI agent profiled. Handcuffed at JFK by immigration officer. Langston tried to avoid the media, but the pressure came anyway. Civil rights groups rallied. Social media turned him into a symbol of black excellence met with white paranoia. Doyle was suspended. An internal investigation began. Langston, meanwhile, was asked to testify before the Senate Homeland Security Committee on racial profiling. He did, and he didn't hold back. I wasn't a threat. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't resist. And still, I was treated like a criminal. If it can happen to me, a federal agent, then it can happen to any black man in America. His voice didn't shake. His conviction cut like steel. Weeks passed. Langston sat in his mother's living room in Atlanta, sipping tea. She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much racism in her lifetime, and too many sons forced to bear it. You okay, baby? She asked. Langston nodded. Tired, but I'm okay. You handled it like your father would have. Langston smiled faintly. His father, a civil rights lawyer, had passed a few years prior, but his words echoed often. Don't let him steal your peace. But never let him silence your truth. Months later, Officer Doyle faced a formal hearing. Multiple complaints came forward, not just Langston's. Immigrants, black men, Middle Eastern women, all with similar stories. Doyle was fired. Langston didn't celebrate. Justice wasn't a trophy. It was an expectation. A right. Langston returned to work. But he took on a new mission, reforming internal bias training across federal agencies, speaking at academies, pushing for policy shifts. He knew he couldn't change everyone, but he could make it harder for people like Doyle to hide behind the badge again. He stood one morning at Quantico in front of a fresh class of recruits. Black, white, Latino, Asian. He said, the badge doesn't make you better than anyone. It makes you responsible for everyone. Silence. Then applause. Racism doesn't always wear a hood. Sometimes it wears a badge, or a TSA uniform, or a judge's robe. Langston's story reminds us that even the highest rank doesn't shield black skin from suspicion, but it also shows us that dignity, poise, and truth, when wielded with purpose, can dismantle systems built on prejudice. Subscribe for more real stories that uncover racism, resilience, and raw truth. Like, share, comment your thoughts.